When Sasol started planning the new headquarters at Sasol Place, one of the aspects that they looked at was actually wanting to commission specific artworks for Sasol Place. The artists that were finally selected were Lindy Sales, Angus Taylor, Colin Moshinwani, Lionel Smith, and Bronwyn Lace.
I think I always had an idea that I was an artist, even as a small child. My three brothers were sports fanatics, and as they watched the game, I drew it. It was very natural, and I'd say sort of always with me. Solid breath, the name of the sculpture, is taking breath, this intangible, ephemeral action, and making it solid. It took about a year. From when Sasol approached and asked me to conceptualize. The inspiration is Sasol as this seminal piece of South Africa's history, South Africa's economy. It is the maker of our energy. And so I used that as a metaphor. And whilst in studio, worked with inks to literally draw with breath. So on an inhalation, I suck a drop up, and then using the exhalation, I push the drop on the paper, and it draws its mark. And that mark is a manifestation of what breath looks and feels like.
She's actually breathing life into the artwork physically and metaphorically, obviously, as well.
And so I then interpreted that using compressed air. I replicated that process and aesthetic on a larger scale. What we did was acrylic in liquid form, cast and then solidified in an oven so that the pigment actually sits inside the panel. The pigments are carbon and titanium, both byproducts of the Sasol fuel making process. And the actual acrylic is also made from byproducts that come out of Sasol.
I think what's also really interesting is the way that Bronwyn has actually used materials from Sasol, not only just to produce a work, but a work that actually has quite a lot of meaning to it, besides just the obvious.
I'm interested in the ways in which humanity deals with death as a concept, and then in reaction to that, life, and the mechanisms of life, from reproduction to breath, these complex systems that are both automatic, but also incredibly profound and poetic in many ways. It's acknowledging that Sasol as a body does something similar to what our own bodies do, which is uses and produces energy and is a kind of core organ in the functioning of the country. It is, as far as we know, the largest solid acrylic piece made. As you scale up, things become exponentially more difficult.
It's large, but in a way it's very quiet, but it's still incredibly powerful in terms of its presence.
I think it's a piece that, much like breath, is about a kind of momentary acknowledgement. It's about the way in which the piece reveals itself through light and reflection at different times, and reveals parts of itself.
I really enjoy this work. It's more than just an aesthetic object, and it has such a peaceful quality about it that forces someone to stop, take a breath.
I think fundamentally, I believe that art is good for society, that it's what makes us human. Right now, it feels like an achievement, and it was scary and exciting, and it felt very rewarding.